Combine week has come, it has gone, and now we bring in Bengals beat writer, digital sports columnist for Local12.com, Richard Skinner. Skinny, you were out at the Combine a couple days. I was there Friday. There's a lot we got to get to,
yes,
but we'll start with Tuesday. We finally heard from Zach Taylor. We heard from Duke Tobin. Your takeaways from what they said on Combine?
Well, the most interesting one was obviously Duke Tobin talking about T. Higgins and not trading him, and you got
spoiler alert, he's not getting traded.
Yeah, if you want him, go find your own wide receiver. And that thing did take on a crazy narrative all its own. I've shot that down on podcasts. I think I shot it down here once. It was never a narrative. It was one of those surmising of what if maybe could happen. It wasn't going to happen this year. Now, next year we'll talk about this again. If there's no extension and the franchise tag is a possibility, we may get to that stage. But there was that. Obviously, the Joe Mixon conversation, there was no definitive going to have him back. We talked to Brian Callahan the next day on Wednesday, and he said, Joe might fell on the wrong side of the business side of this. Duke Tobin talked about, renegotiation, restructuring. I think the tea leaves are there for probably Joe Mixon not to come back either, and we've talked about that a little bit too.
We've talked about that, and then the takeaway from what I saw at the Combine at least is the Bengals have done their homework on quite a few running backs, which would make sense if Joe Mixon's not going to come back.
You talk about a deep class, and I'm not just talking about first round, second round. You're talking third, fourth round. I've done a couple of mock drafts myself, one that I didn't go all the way down to the fourth round yet, but kind of playing with it. There were 5 running backs at that point. I went, all these guys can play, and especially when you're not anymore in this league, you're not looking for the 27 carry a game back. You're looking for the niche back. They got a niche back if they re-signed Samaje Perine. They've got a niche back maybe in Chris Evans, and they got a niche back in Travion Williams. And then whatever this guy they draft is, could be the next Isaiah Pacheco potentially. So, yeah, I just think just for the finances of it, you have to make a fiscal responsible decision. That's probably to let Joe Mixon go.
And I was talking to a reporter from Buffalo actually that I knew when I was out there, and his point was because the Bills are in a similar situation where they're like, well, everyone wants to get that big back, but you don't need a star running back because would you like Joe Burrow not to throw the ball 30 times a game?
No, right.
You want to put it in his hand. If you have a great running back, so what the Browns have with Nick Chubb, you got to give him 20 carries, and if he doesn't, then why are you paying him all this money?
Yeah, and even Philly, as run-centric as they are, they were 3-4 backs deep plus the quarterback. So, you can mix and match certain situations, and it's just, listen, I got why they signed Joe Mixon when they did to the extension. He was the focal point of this offense. He was kind of the heart and soul of that locker room to a degree, but they also structured the contract to where the back end of it this year and next year were very cap-friendly to take them off the books, and I think that's where we're at. It's just a matter of dollars and cents.
The other big storyline, I think, for Bengals fans out of this Combine, not the draft yet, is the tight end class. It's very deep. It's very talented. Yep. Michael Mayer's a popular name out there, obviously with the Northern Kentucky connection. Do the Bengals look tight end in the first round? I know they've talked to a couple guys. I still think I don't know. I'm not a big tight end first round guy. I agree they should draft a tight end.
I'm not either because C.J. Uzomah had a niche in this offense. Hayden Hurst had a niche. It wasn't a Travis Kelce niche. Now, if you got Michael Mayer, maybe he talked about he wants to be the next Travis Kelce. But I think a lot of it will depend on do you re-sign Hayden Hurst and or Mitch Wilcox and or Drew Sample. I think probably Hayden Hurst is clearly the priority. The other two guys would be, hey, nice to get them. If you don't, then you have to have a tight end in the draft quickly, and it's got to either be first or second round. And while it's a deep class, I've done a couple of mocks I mentioned. I found 3 or 4 tight ends in the first round. You go to the second round, you're dive off the cliff. Then you're now to the third or fourth round, and does that become a reach? So I do think tight ends in play in the first round only if they don't re-sign Hayden Hurst.
All right, Combine is now finished. Who are some guys that really stood out to you that maybe the Bengals could target?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, when you look at that interior line class, the kid from Pitt, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, ran a 4.67 40. That just blew my mind. And listen, as much as you love DJ Reader, you love B.J. Hill, you could use another interior pass rush type of guy. And a guy that runs a 4.67 to me, sign me up for that guy getting through cracks. I mean, I do think that defense missed Larry Ogunjobi a little bit last year because I thought BJ had a nice niche as the backup, and they just never really got that interior rush going. I think they could use some help there. Other than that, it's the cornerback group because there's a ton of those too. I mean, if you go first-round corner, I think you're going in the right direction.
Now, a young, athletic defensive tackle who might be a little undersized. I feel like I've heard that before.
They got that guy in the 4th round one year.
Yeah, but I've heard that before, and last I heard he was like maybe one of the greatest defensive tackles ever to play.
Yeah.
His name's Aaron Donald. That's what we're talking about.
And he can run a little bit.
And he can run just a little bit. He won a Super Bowl for the Rams.
Yes.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Michael Mayer. He's obviously going to go first round. He said all the right things about, I'd love to have Joe Burrow throw the ball to me. Houday Stadium. I was talking to somebody else about that. I think he just forgot that it's now Paycor.
No, but it was great.
It was a great line by Mr. Mayer there. What do you think the odds are of him coming to the Bengals? I know he said He just wants to win. He doesn't care where he goes, which
Yeah.
is obviously what you guys.
I mean, so a lot of early mock drafts, not even early, within the last 2 or 3 weeks, had Michael in the top 20, like Tampa Bay at 19. And it just seems like from that point forward, now we've had some other mixing and matching. And everyone I see, I've seen Michael fall to the first round. I've seen him fall to the Bengals spot where the Bengals take him. If he's there, and again, it's dependent on the Hayden Hurst thing is the decision maker here. If they don't re-sign Hayden Hurst and he's there, I can't say how you don't take him. I mean, you talk about a guy that will take this personally to be playing in this town for this team from this area, and as good as he has a chance to be, and trust me, he has a chance to be special. He is just so freakishly athletic. I don't know how you can pass on him. Again, depending on the Hayden Hurst situation.
Now, another interesting thing, we'll wrap this up with Will Levis was there for his press conference. There is no lack of confidence with this young man. He's the big boomer bust prospect, I feel, in this, other than Anthony Richardson, but because a lot of people think Levis could be a Josh Allen, he could be a Zach Wilson. There's people on both sides. Where do you stand with Will Levis?
Well, I'm a Kentucky grad who's a Kentucky football fan. I'm not as much a Kentucky basketball fan, but I am a Kentucky football fan. I felt bad for Will this year because he was playing hurt. He was very limited in his mobility. The offensive line wasn't very good. They missed Chris Rodriguez for 4 games, and that affected the running game. But he battled through some stuff. And I read, I think it was Mike Tannenbaum, but there's I get an email every morning from the 33 team. It's a bunch of NFL former general managers and scouts and executives. And I think it was Mike Tannenbaum, the former Jets and Dolphins GM, who wrote a piece on why he thinks Will Levis is the best quarterback in this draft class. And he talked about facing adversity. That a lot of guys, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, can stand there for 5 seconds and go, first read, second read, third read. Oh, let me come back to my first read. It's not a knock on those guys because they're very accurate and they're good at what they do, but they don't translate to the NFL because those reads don't happen. They happen like this. And that's where Will had to face some of that adversity. He's a leader. He's got a hose for an arm. I think the Josh Allen comparison is a good one because you look at Josh Allen's last year in college, you're like, that guy's never going to be a good NFL quarterback. Oh, yeah, he is. I lean towards I think Will is. I just think he's super hyper competitive, that he's not going to let himself down.
All right, the Combine is come and gone. We are under 2 months of the NFL draft, just getting started, folks. Richard Skinner joining us here on the Sports Authority.